So here's another really tough integral that I want to go over. It's the integral of x cubed times e up to the x squared all over x squared plus 1 squared dx. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly modify this function so that it looks something like x squared times e up to the x squared, and all of this times x over x squared plus 1 squared dx. Now, the reason why we do this is because in order to solve this integral, we're going to have to use integration by parts. This also means that we have to choose for a function to be differentiated and for a function to be integrated. The function that I'm choosing to differentiate is going to be x squared times e up to the x squared, and the function that I'm choosing to integrate is going to be x over x squared plus 1 squared. Now, you can use the product rule and the chain rule to find the derivative of this function, but what you'll ultimately end up with is 2x times e up to the x squared plus x squared times 2x times e up to the x squared. And when you fully integrate this function over here, what you'll be left with is something that looks like this. 1/2 times x squared plus 1, and this all up to the negative first power, all over negative 1. And we can simplify this we can simplify the integral of this function, as we've done here, to make it look like this. Negative 1 over 2 times x squared plus 1. And we can also simplify this function over here by pulling out the common factors that we see. So I'll go ahead and put this over here. And what this looks like is 2x e up to the x squared times 1 plus x squared. And when we use integration by parts using the DI method, we have to multiply these two functions here. Of course, we'll be using the simplification for this function, but we have to multiply these two functions, and we have to take the integral of the product of these two functions. And of course, we're going to be using the simplification that we had here. And just because I know that there's a lot going on here, I'm going to rewrite the original function, and I'm going to insert all of the derivatives and integrals that we got using the DI method. So we have the integral of x cubed times e up to the x squared all over x squared plus 1 squared dx is equal to x squared times e up to the x squared times negative 1 times 2 times x squared plus 1. And since there was a minus sign on this part of the DI method, that means that the multiple of these two functions that are arranged horizontally, side by side, those two functions are going to carry a negative sign, or in other words, we have minus the integral of the product of these two functions. And what that looks like is the integral of negative 1 over 2 times x squared plus 1 times 2x times e up to the x squared times 1 plus x squared dx. I know it got cut off for a little bit there, but it's a pretty long function anyway. And well, now that we have it organized in this way, you can see that there are numerous terms that we can cancel out in this integral. For instance, we can go ahead and get rid of these two terms here. We can get rid of the 2. And what we're left with is the integral of -1 times x times e up to the x squared. So I'll go ahead and rewrite this. We have, and while we're at it, we'll just go ahead and combine these two functions, keep them in one fraction. We'll distribute this negative sign, and what we get is negative x squared times e up to the x squared all over 2x squared plus 2, and we distribute this 2 over here. And then we can actually move the negative sign to the outside of the integral so that we have plus the integral of x times e up to the x squared. And this function is actually, it could actually be its own, I can make a video on how to integrate this function, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and assume that you already know how to perform this calculation. You would simply use integration by parts again, and you would choose to differentiate x and integrate e up to the x squared. And what you would be left with ultimately is negative x squared times e up to the x squared all over 2x squared plus 2, and this is going to be plus 1/2 times e up to the x squared, and we can't forget our constant, plus c. And that is our answer.